Greek cities or whatever it may be. That's architecture. It wasn't designed by accountants, nor was it designed by lawyers, or it basically was designed very much architects translating the needs of the day.
Soyez assurés que mes décisions auront toujours en vue le bien final.
It's a mistake to believe that the architect has all the answers, and that the architectural profession, especially as it is in this country at the moment, is going to be a kind of white knight galloping into Croydon, transforming everything with a touch of a T-square. You know, it's completely unlikely to happen. We have very talented architects in this country, and some of them are in the Croydon competition exhibition. But it's not enough, and it's out of style to believe that architects have all the answers. The answers lie between the professions now, much, much more than in the hands of just one profession.
Well, this is the Purley Way, but you can now go in towards London. And here you've got all your major stores. Seems to be more this side of the flyover than the other side. Toys R Us, Computer World, PC World. Purley Way always had sort of business, but it's really mushroomed now. It's really mushroomed.
The major forces which shape the urban environment are commercial today. It's a terrible thing to admit, and no one likes to face that. We all of us, I think, wish it were different and that these things could be planned, but they're forces controlled by international commerce and consumerism on a massive scale. The warehouse stores will come to the Purley Way. There's no way of escaping it. And those forces are ultimately what shape whether a city centre decays or survives. It's nothing to do with the architecture.
Le présent est effrayant parce qu'il est irréversible, parce qu'il est de fer.
I don't see how architecture can really provide a solution. The thing about looking at a city and deciding to do some kind of civic improvement is a lot to do with making people feel good about the place, giving it some kind of identity if that's been lost. And so we did a proposal which tried to take things which were from the history of Croydon and attach them to the present to create some sort of meaning and some symbol that people could identify with, but which would also be very cheap and effective. And so we found, reading the history, that one of the things that had made the place significant in medieval times was Archbishop Whitgift with his wonderful trout farms. And so we thought that it would be, for one thing, nice to change all the street lamps in the major roads around Croydon to blue, which is something that can be done very simply using unbalanced mercury halide, which is cheap. Just means that when the bulbs go, you replace them. It becomes blue. That if you could turn the roads to blue, then the lights of the golden lights of the cars would be like fish swimming in the stream. So it's a way of engaging a memory of the past and attaching it to an understanding of the future, so that you can say these two things are in some way connected.
Votre tendance à revenir sur le passé peut nous être utile.
I think the strength about this particular exhibition is that it's a range of things. There are things to laugh at. There are things which really are bold, original and striking. And there's one or two things which are perhaps not in quite the same league as the others. But as an overall selection, I think it succeeds very well.
The response of most of the architects to the Croydon exhibition and competition is pretty predictable. And I think one or two of them have opened their drawers and taken out a drawing which might have been put up in Barcelona or Seville or somewhere else, just as well as Croydon. I don't feel any of the architects have spent much time in Croydon at all. They've just imposed their solutions. And the trouble with architects, and it is the trouble with their education, I think, is they're trained to believe in a certain set of ideas. They're deeply inflexible mentally, architects. And so for Richard Rogers to put up a high-tech tower is absolutely inevitable. And he would have done it, you know, in Calcutta as well as in Croydon.
It would be very interesting to see what developments actually come out of these initiatives, whether there is really a serious intention to do something in Croydon and make it a better place, or whether really the whole thing may just be an exercise, a cosmetic exercise, and we may end up with some very small bits and pieces which really don't transform or change the problem of Croydon.
Est-ce que vous acceptez notre proposition?
We want, if possible, for at least one project to come out of the exhibition and become a reality.
I personally haven't spoken to anybody who wants it. So somebody must want it, but I haven't spoken to anyone who wants it.
It's difficult to see exactly where planning stands in 1993 because the Thatcher years tried to release commerce in particular from the shackles of planning. It was unfashionable in the 80s, but releasing people from planning didn't make things any better. So we're in a kind of planning limbo now. And I think both the architectural profession and the planning profession are really up against it, and they should work together more closely with politicians to devise a new way of planning, which is much more democratic.
I think it's very important that any rebirth comes from the public. It must be a grassroots. And equally important, of course, that those who have the power, which are the politicians, take the necessary steps. So that is a tremendous symbol. Croydon has started this. I very much hope that other places will do it. In fact, I think it's imperative that other places will do it, because otherwise there will be a general exodus from places like Croydon, and in the end, a general exodus from London.
In the good old social democratic utopia welfare state days, planning meant the government knew what was best. It was going to socially engineer towns and cities to make them better places to live. I guess in the 60s and 70s, planning tended to mean something else. It meant taking a map and bringing out a felt pen marker and drawing a circle and saying, that's housing, that's offices, that's factories. There was no kind of sense of what these places would look like. It was geography, it was economics. There was no kind of sense of an architectural vision. And I suppose that's what we've come back to, in a sense, in the 90s, the idea that planners should be working with architects to say, physically, what's the place going to look like?
Now we know enough about a city to say it's much more like an organism than it's like a machine. It's no longer, we don't live in machines for living in, we live in these things that really pulsate, and you have to keep applying energy to them, you have to keep reviving them. So the name of the game is not planning, but restructuring. That's what keeps these organisms alive.
Ils vont peut-être guérir, d'ailleurs. Qu'Alphaville deviendra une cité heureuse comme Florence, comme Angoulême City, comme Tokiorama. Ne vous retournez pas.
I didn't realize what the end was going to be, but I had a faith that it would work out all right. Not a faith in myself, but a faith in God. And I think he guided me in the decisions I suggested should be done for Croydon.